Two suns rose over the ruins. A human stood between death and desire. This is HFY Vanguard, where death was promised and legend began. The cavern trembled as another warning pulse rippled through the air, a deep, rhythmic thud that sounded like the heartbeat of the ancient world itself. Crimson light bled from fissures in the walls, washing over the carvings that spiraled upward toward the dome ceiling. Each carving told a fragment of the Valkyrie Empire's myth, conquest, ascension, and inevitable decay. Damien Ride moved through the chamber like a shadow in motion, every step measured, every breath deliberate. Sweat streaked down his temple as he crouched before the control dais, tools glinting in his gloved hands. His breath fogged the transparent visor of his mask as he whispered, "Come on, you stubborn alien bastard." The relic hovered above a pedestal in the center of the room, a tear-shaped crystal, no larger than a fist, smooth as mercury, radiating a faint blue luminescence. To the untrained eye, it looked like nothing more than a piece of polished glass. But Damien knew better. 6 months of research, 3 weeks of bribery, 1 lifetime's worth of risk, all for that little glowing stone. He reached for the control panel, the alien runes shifting under his touch. They weren't carved. They were alive, morphing lines of energy that reacted to his biometrics. For a moment, he thought he had it. The glyphs pulsed green. Then they turned blood red. Oh, hell no. A shrill alarm erupted, slicing through the silence. The chamber lights flared crimson. The floor vibrated. Energy fields shimmered into existence, sealing the exits one by one. Damien slammed his fist into the console. Shit, not again. From the far side of the room, a smooth melodic voice floated through the air. You humans never learn, do you? Damien froze. The voice didn't echo. It came from close, too close. He spun around, gun raised. Who's there? A section of the wall rippled like liquid and then peeled away, revealing a figure emerging from the shadows. She stepped forward with the grace of a predator that had never known fear. She was tall, athletic, her form wrapped in a skin-tight tactical suit the color of stormlight. The fabric shimmered faintly, made of hexagonal nanothreads that moved with her body like a living thing. At her waist, twin black belts carried sleek alien tools or weapons. Her hair, long, silvery white, cascaded over her shoulders, catching the red light like molten starlight. Her eyes were the most striking thing about her, amber, glowing faintly with pupils that tightened like a cat's when she smiled. And that smile was trouble. What else do you expect to receive from me, human? She teased, her voice, a blend of mockery and curiosity. Damien kept his gun leveled. A name would be a start. You won't live long enough to use it. She walked past him, utterly unbothered by the weapon aimed at her chest, glancing over the alien console. You triggered the Guardian Protocol. Smart. Now the temple thinks you're a Valkyrie insurgency. You have 3 minutes before the drones arrive. She looked up at him, tilting her head slightly, studying his face. You're handsome for a thief. Thief, Damien scoffed. I prefer independent archaeologist. Ah. Her tone dripped with amusement. The human word for grave robber. Damien sighed. You gonna help me or just stand there insulting my career choices? That depends. She tapped a sequence on her wrist device and the pedestal's barrier flickered. If I help you, you'll owe me, and I never forget a debt. He narrowed his eyes. What's the cat? Smart human, she murmured. I need someone with your skill set. Breaking into temples, breaking out of them. Before he could answer, the sound of metallic wings echoed through the corridors, a high-pitched mechanical whine that sent chills down his spine. Security drones, she said casually. Big, fast, heavily armed. Shall we lead the way? The alien's lips curved into a sly grin. Good boy. She pressed her palm to the wall, and a hidden door hissed open. A narrow tunnel glowed faintly with blue luminescent veins. They ran. The corridor twisted sharply, forcing Damien to duck under low arches and leap over debris. The hum of pursuit grew louder behind them. What's your name? He called out, panting. Dilla. Got it. I'm Damien. I know, she said without looking back. Your reputation precedes you. That a compliment or a threat depends how long you survive. A drone burst through the wall behind them, a metallic sphere with glowing red optics. It fired a plasma bolt that seared the tunnel wall inches from Damien's head. He ducked, He cursing and fired back. The human plasma pistol roared, leaving a smoking scar across the drone's hull. Dilla spun launched a small disc that exploded into a pulse of white light. The drone spasmed its circuits, frying and collapsed in a heap of molten alloy. Damien blinked. Nice toy. She smirked. Ancient tech, not made for humans. They reached the end of the tunnel, a wall of solid stone. Damien turned panic flickering across his face. Dead end. Watch and learn. She raised her wrist again. The wall split apart like curtains of liquid glass, revealing a hidden hangar bathed in blue light. At its center sat a sleek vessel shaped like a falcon, mid-dive smooth aerodynamic, with lines that seemed almost organic. Holy hell, Damien whispered. You've got your own ship down here. Dilla gave him a sideways glance. Of course. What kind of idiot breaks into a Valkyrie temple without an exit strategy? Apparently this idiot. She said, smiling faintly. You're self-aware. I like that. They sprinted up the ramp, and the hatch sealed behind them just as the drones breached the chamber. Inside the cockpit was a symphony of alien-designed curved surfaces, soft lights controls that responded to gestures rather than buttons. Dilla slid into the pilot's seat, hands moving in graceful arcs. The ship hummed to life, rising smoothly from the ground. Damien strapped in beside her, eyes darting across the unfamiliar displays. Where are we going? Anywhere that isn't here, she said. Hold on. The ship shot upward, cutting through layers of stone and into open sky. The red desert below stretched endlessly, dotted with ruins and skeletal towers. Damien exhaled, the tension easing until the radar flared red. 3 Valkyrie interceptors appeared on the scanner, closing fast. You've got company. I always do, Dilla replied. Let's dance. The next minutes were chaos made beautiful. Plasma fire streaked across the sky. Dilla's ship twisted and dove between canyon spires, engines shrieking. Damien manned a side turret, returning fire. He managed to hit one interceptor, sending it spiraling into the desert. The remaining 2 split formation, one climbing high, the other diving low. They're flanking us, he shouted. Then we make it interesting. Dilla flipping the ship into a vertical roll, then dove straight toward the canyon floor. Rocks blurred past. The pursuing ships followed, firing relentlessly. Are you insane? Damien yelled. Completely, she said, grinning. At the last possible second, she pulled up the G-force, slamming them back into their seats. One interceptor couldn't adjust in time and exploded against the cliff wall. The third broke off. Silence returned, only the hum of engines and the rapid beat of 2 hearts. Damien turned to her, chest heaving. Remind me never to question your flying again. You survived, she said lightly. Most humans don't. Lucky me. Dilla looked at him, eyes glowing faintly. Luck had nothing to do with it. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The air between them felt charged not just with static energy, but something alive, pulsing dangerous. Finally, Damien exhaled. So what's this job you want from me, Dilla, of wherever the hell you're from? Her lips curved into that same teasing smile from the temple. A delivery. Something the Valkyrie stole from my people. And what makes you think I'll help you? She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a low, sultry purr. Because human, if you don't, you'll die. If you do, you might live long enough to regret it. He chuckled darkly. That's not much of a sales pitch. Then let's call it curiosity. Their eyes locked, challenge meeting challenge, predator meeting predator. Outside, the planet's red horizon bled into night, and the stars stretched endlessly ahead, silent witnesses to the beginning of something neither of them yet understood. A partnership forged not by trust, but by fire danger and an impossible attraction. The stars smeared into ribbons of blue and gold as the ship tore through the void, leaving the cursed temple world far behind. Damien Ride sat strapped in the co-pilot's seat, watching the streaking light outside the viewport with wary fascination. He didn't like being the passenger, never had. Dilla's fingers moved over the holographic controls like an artist playing an invisible instrument. Her eyes, glowing amber, reflected the swirl of hyperspace. She looked calm, almost serene, like she'd been born among the stars. Damien broke the silence first. So Dilla, of wherever you come from, he said, voice dripping with sarcasm, any chance you're going to tell me where exactly we're heading before you sell me to the nearest bounty broker? Her lips curved, the faintest ghost of amusement. You think highly of yourself, human. You're not worth nearly that much. Flattering. You're welcome. They sat in silence again, the hum of the ship filling the void between them. Damien glanced at the displays, trying to decipher the alien language that scrolled across them. You mind explaining what kind of engine this is? Doesn't look like anything Terran made. It's not, she said. It's Aryan, my people's design, older than your entire civilization. He whistled softly, and still running, impressive. Her head tilted slightly, eyes narrowing. You speak as if humans invented maintenance. I speak as someone who's seen a lot of things fall apart. That earned him a faint smile, not mocking this time, but almost understanding. The moment hung quiet and strange. Then the console beeped. Red glyphs flared across the display. Dilla frowned. Incoming. From who we left that planet behind. Apparently not fast enough. She tapped a sequence. The radar expanded, showing 3 crimson dots accelerating toward them. Interceptors, Damien muttered. Valkyrie, she confirmed. They must have tracked us out of orbit. She pulled the ship out of hyperspace with a stomach-turning jolt. The view snapped back into normal space, a field of fractured asteroids drifting in slow ballet. Damien gripped the armrest. You plan on hiding in this? Flying through it, she said. Hold on. The ship dove into the asteroid field. Rock and dust spun around them, glittering in the pale light of a distant star. Behind the 3 Valkyrie fighters followed their engines flaring like angry comets. Plasma fire flashed past the canopy. Dilla jerked the controls, weaving between tumbling stones. One asteroid the size of a building scraped by so close, Damien could have reached out and touched it. You call this flying, he shouted. I call it survival. He switched to the gunnery console, activating the human-made interface from his gear pack. It was crude but functional. You focus on not killing us. I'll handle the fireworks. Dilla's mouth twitched. Try to keep up. He fired. Twin blasts ripped from the ship's belly gun, slamming into the nearest interceptor. The explosion lit up the asteroid field in a flash of blue fire. 1 down. 2 to go, she said. And they're locking on. The second fighter fired a missile. Dilla spun the ship's sideways engines, howling, then cut thrust entirely. The missile overshot, detonating harmlessly against an asteroid. Nice move, Damien muttered. I told you, she said, a hint of pride slipping through. I can fly anything. The last fighter broke off, formation circling. They're not giving up, he warned. They never do. Then her tone changed, subtle, darker. Check your jacket. What? Left sleeve, now. He looked down and froze. A faint blinking light, barely visible, pulsed from under the seam of his combat jacket. What the hell is that? Tracker, she said grimly. Valkyrie military grade. Don't look at me. It wasn't there before I met you. Her head whipped toward him, eyes flashing. You think I tagged you? You were already lit up when I found you in that temple. Convenient story. If I wanted you dead, she snapped, I'd have left you there. Another blast rocked the ship, cutting off their argument. The remaining Valkyrie fighter was closing fast. Dilla twisted the controls, sending the ship into a dizzying roll. Damien held on to the console, teeth gritted. We can argue later, you got a plan. She exhaled through her teeth. Always. The ship looped around a massive asteroid, engines flaring blue. The Valkyrie fighter followed, matching her turn. Dilla tapped a control, deploying a series of small metallic spheres from the ship's underside. The spheres floated for half a second, then erupted into a web of shimmering energy. The Valkyrie fighter slammed right into it. The explosion was brilliant, a burst of electric light that tore the fighter apart. Silence returned, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the engines. Dilla leaned back, catching her breath. Damien stared at the flickering display on his sleeve, the tiny tracker still pulsing faintly. He tore it off and crushed it under his boot. Whoever planted that just painted a big target on us. Yes, she said softly. And now they know exactly who to chase. He looked at her. You mean Drex? The name hung heavy in the air. Her jaw tightened. Commander Drex, Valkyrie High Strategist, my former bondmate. That's one hell of an X. You have no idea. She stood pacing the narrow cockpit. He was brilliant once, before the wars twisted him. He believes the fragments of the heart of Lyra belong to the Valkyrie, that with all 7 he can reshape existence itself. And you stole one. I reclaimed it, she corrected sharply. It belonged to my people long before his empire existed. Why me, Dilla? You could have hired smugglers. Mercs, anyone. Why drag a human thief into your holy war? She turned, meeting his gaze with that same unreadable intensity. Because humans don't follow orders. They improvise. They adapt. That's what I need. He leaned back, studying her. You know, you say that like it's a compliment. Perhaps it is. For a while, neither spoke. The ship drifted through the quiet expanse between stars, its engines cooling. Finally, Damien asked, where are we going next? Dilla hesitated. A place called Sanctuary, a hidden station far beyond Valkyrie reach. My people maintain what's left of our archives there. Sanctuary, he repeated, testing the word. Sounds like heaven. It's closer to purgatory. He smirked. So, business as usual. She turned away, but he caught the faintest hint of amusement on her lips. The console beeped again, a communication signal encrypted. Dilla frowned and tapped the screen. The holographic projector flared to life, and a tall, broad-shouldered figure appeared humanoid, but with the unmistakable features of a Valkyrie angular face, metallic veins running beneath pale skin eyes like burning coals. Drexel, Dilla whispered. Dilla of House Thalon, the hologram said, voice smooth as poison. You've been busy. Damien instinctively reached for his weapon, though the figure was only light and shadow. Still stealing from your betters, I see, Drex continued. His eyes flicked toward Damien. And consorting with lesser species. How predictable. Stay out of this, Dilla warned. Oh, but I can't, Drex said, smiling faintly. You stole something of mine again. I'm simply retrieving what's owed. Try and take it, Damien muttered. Drex's hologram turned to him, eyes narrowing. A human. He studied Damien as if inspecting a new insect species. Tell me, Terran, does she lie to you yet? She always lies. It's her nature. Yeah, Damien said. Then maybe I'm just the kind of fool who lies back. The hologram flickered with static, and Drex's smirk widened. We'll see how long your wit lasts when my fleet arrives. The transmission cut. The cockpit fell silent again. Dilla didn't move. Hell of a reunion, Damien said finally. He's tracking us through subspace, she murmured, her voice low. He won't stop. Then we stop him first. Dilla turned to him, genuinely surprised. You'd fight him for me. He shrugged, leaning back. I don't like bullies. Doesn't matter if they're human, alien, or demigod. Something flickered in her eyes, respect, maybe even admiration. Then softer, you really are reckless. Occupational hazard. For a long moment, their eyes held. Outside, the stars burned cold and infinite, but inside that small ship, the temperature seemed to rise. She looked away, first returning her attention to the controls. You'll have time to regret this later, human. Looking forward to it, he said, grinning. The ship surged back into hyperspace, engines roaring. As the light swallowed them both, Damien thought he caught a glimpse of her reflection on the glass, her eyes lingering on him for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Whatever this alliance was, it had just become something far more dangerous. The hum of hyperspace had a rhythm, slow pulsing like a heartbeat buried inside the ship. Damien sat in the cockpit, staring at the blue-white streaks of light outside. The stars stretched endlessly, blurred by velocity. His reflection on the glass looked tired, a rogue's face haunted by the kind of choices that always ended with someone betrayed or dead. He glanced back. Dilla sat cross-legged on the floor near the cargo hold, surrounded by faint streams of light emanating from a levitating object, the heart fragment. Even in its dormant state, it pulsed with life. The surface looked liquid, yet solid, its texture impossible to define. Sometimes it was glass, sometimes metal, sometimes something that seemed to breathe. Damien approached carefully. You sure it's safe keeping that thing out in the open? Her eyes opened that molten amber again. Safe, not in the slightest, but it listens better when it's awake. It listens. She nodded. It's not a machine, Damien. It's alive, and ancient beyond your understanding. He folded his arms, leaning against the doorway. So it talks back too. Sometimes. Must be one hell of a conversation starter. Her gaze flicked up to him, irritation softening into a faint smile. You joke to hide fear. A human trait. You're not wrong. He crouched near the glowing fragment. So, what does it say? Dilla hesitated, then extended a hand toward the object. The light shifted, deepened a resonance that filled the air, vibrating in his chest. Then a voice, soft, feminine, ancient, whispered in Damien's mind. You are far from home, little flame. He jerked back. What the? Don't fight it, Dilla said calmly. It's reaching out. The voice echoed again, deeper now, like it was speaking from the bones of the universe itself. Do you seek power or freedom? Damien swallowed. What kind of question is that? The kind that decides your soul, Dilla murmured. The light grew brighter, washing the walls in pale blue. Images flashed in Damien's head, impossible visions. A vast city made of silver and crystal towers rising into storm clouds. Armies of golden armored beings kneeling before a throne of light. Then destruction, fire shadows war. He staggered back, clutching his head. Dilla stood still in the glow, her expression unreadable. The heart remembers. It shows what it wants you to see. Yeah, next time tell it to knock first. Her lips curved faintly. You handled it better than most. He looked at her, really looked the way her hair shimmered with starlight, the way the glow painted her skin in shifting hues of blue and gold. She seemed almost ethereal. Not a woman, but a force. What did you see? He asked quietly. Home, she said. Before the Valkyrie burned it. The heart carries fragments of memory. It binds itself to those who touch it, sometimes through thought, sometimes through emotion. He frowned. Emotion. She met his gaze. The heart reacts to connection. It amplifies it. As if to prove her point, the fragment flared again, brighter this time. The air thickened with static, or maybe something more, a hum, that vibrated inside his pulse. He could feel Dilla's heartbeat in the air sink to his. What's it doing? It's linking. Their eyes met, and for a moment Damien swore he saw something impossible behind hers, a reflection of himself. Then the world tilted. They were somewhere else. Gone was the ship. Gone was the metal and light. They stood in a vast field beneath a turquoise sky. Towers of crystal loomed in the distance, glowing faintly. The air was warm, smelling faintly of ozone and rain. Dilla's breath caught. This is Aryan Prime, my world before the war. Damien turned slowly. The city on the horizon pulsed with the same rhythm as the heart. Is this real? A memory, the heart's dream. He stepped closer to her. So we're both in your memory. Not mine alone, she said softly. It's sharing pieces of yours too. He frowned, and then the skyline shimmered again. The alien city blurred into something different, an Earth city. Skyscrapers of steel and glass. Smoke. Sirens. He saw himself younger, wearing a military jacket, holding a broken helmet, while explosions lit the horizon. Dilla gasped. What is that? Home, he said quietly. Before I stopped believing in it. Their worlds overlapped, the alien ruins and the human battlefield blending into one landscape of loss. The heart pulsed brighter. Then the vision shattered. They were back aboard the ship, both breathing hard. The fragment hovered between them, glowing softly like a satisfied animal. Damien exhaled. I don't know what the hell that was, but I didn't like it. You will, Dilla murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It wanted to know if we could coexist. And what's the verdict? Her lips curved, faintly teasing again. Ask me after I decide whether to kill you. He snorted. That's comforting. But the tension had shifted. The sharpness between them wasn't hostility anymore. It was magnetism. She moved past him toward the pilot's seat, her shoulder brushing his. For a brief instant, the air seemed to hum louder. Damien turned to hide the way his pulse quickened. You mentioned this Drex guy before. He's after the heart, right? Yes, she said, strapping herself in. He has 3 of the 7 fragments already. He believes uniting them will make him a god. And what happens if he does? Then nothing will stop him from reshaping the galaxy. He looked out at the endless stars. You really think one man can control something like that? She met his eyes. One human already tried once. He blinked. What? She hesitated, then said softly, long ago, before your recorded history, the heart touched Earth. Your kind changed it. Damien let out a low whistle. We corrupted it, or improved it. The heart learned emotion from humanity. Passion, defiance, the will to choose. He smiled grimly. Sounds like a virus. To the Valkyrie it was. The silence that followed was heavy, cosmic in scale. Finally, Dilla stood and deactivated the heart's containment field. The fragment dimmed, folding into a near sleep state. We'll reach sanctuary in 2 cycles, she said. Rest while you can. You'll need it. You're assuming I can sleep after all that. You'll manage. Humans always do. She turned to leave the cockpit. Damien watched her go, the movement of her body smooth, predatory, mesmerizing. Then his gaze drifted to the heart. It pulsed once more faintly as if aware he was watching. And in the quiet that followed, a whisper brushed his mind again. Freedom is never given human. It is taken and paid for in blood. Damien opened his eyes, a chill crawling down his spine. He didn't know whether the voice came from the heart or from somewhere inside himself. Either way, he suspected the two were becoming harder to tell apart. The first sight of Sanctuary stole Damien's breath. Suspended in the twilight of a dying nebula, the station looked nothing like human engineering, not steel and symmetry, but fluid and organic, as though carved from the bones of a sleeping god. Its ring-shaped body spun slowly, casting a soft golden halo across the surrounding clouds of purple dust. Dilla's voice broke the silence. "Welcome to what's left of my people." The jackdaw glided toward a docking bay shaped like an iris petals of a loroi parting to receive them. The ship connected with a muted thud, and for the first time in hours, the engines fell silent. Damien unstrapped himself, stretching his neck. Impressive architecture. Creepy but impressive. "You humans build with straight lines," Dilla replied, rising gracefully. "We preferred living shapes. Aryan designs breathe like we do." He followed her through the airlock, stepping into a corridor bathed in soft, bioluminescent light. The walls pulsed faintly, veins of energy flowing like liquid through translucent panels. Everything smelled faintly of ozone and something floral, clean, alien, alive. Figures waited ahead, tall, elegant humanoid with pale skin that shimmered faintly under the glow. Their eyes varied in shades of gold and silver, and their hair, white or pale blue, marked them unmistakably as Dilla's kind. The one at the front stepped forward, older, his face lined with the weight of centuries. His voice carried both authority and gentleness. "Dilla of House Thalon, you bring a human to Sanctuary." "Elder Morith," she greeted, bowing her head. "We come seeking refuge and counsel." The elder's gaze flicked to Damien, curiosity tempered by caution. A human thief carrying one of the hearts. Unusual company for a protector. Damien offered a half-smile. "Thief's such a harsh word. I prefer opportunist." A few murmurs rippled among the Aryans. Humor was apparently not common currency here. Morith studied him for a long moment, then gestured. "You may proceed. The council will hear your report." They followed him into a vast chamber, circular with high ceilings, that shimmered like starlight trapped in glass. A round table occupied the center, made of some translucent crystal that emitted its own faint glow. 7 Aryans were already seated there, their postures regal, their eyes assessing. Dilla stepped forward, placing the heart fragment, now dormant, at the table's center. The glow intensified, spreading soft ripples of light across the surface. "I bring the 4th fragment of the heart of Lyra," she said. "Recovered from Valkyrie hands at great risk." A murmur swept through the chamber. Elder Taliam, a woman with braided silver hair and eyes like liquid mercury, leaned forward. "3 of our agents died attempting that recovery. Their sacrifice weighs heavily." "They will be honored," Dilla said, bowing slightly. "But you bring a human here," said another council member, Bale sharp-featured, his voice tinged with suspicion. "Was that part of your mission as well?" "He saved my life," she said simply. "And without him, the heart would still be in Valkyrie possession." The man's gaze turned to Damien. "You are an artifact hunter, are you not?" "Depends who's asking," Damien said, keeping his tone casual. "I recover lost history, sometimes for money, sometimes for meaning." "Or for yourself," the man replied coldly. Damien met his stare without flinching, usually both. A ripple of disapproval moved across the council, except for Elder Morith, who seemed quietly amused. "Direct like most humans," he murmured. "I appreciate honesty, even when it lacks diplomacy." Dilla turned to the council. "The Valkyrie are closing in. Commander Drex now holds 3 fragments. He believes uniting all 7 will make him a god. If we do nothing, he will find us and end what remains of Aryan freedom." Thalia nodded grimly. "And you believe bringing the heart here endangers us?" "It's already too late for safety," Dilla said. "We must move the fragments to Nura, the last refuge world. Only there can they be secured." Before anyone could respond, the sharp-featured male stood. "No, we cannot run forever. We have hidden for centuries while the Valkyrie expanded. Perhaps it is time we use the heart as a weapon." The chamber buzzed with unease. Dilla's eyes hardened. The heart is not a weapon, Kalen. It was never meant to destroy. It was meant to protect, he countered. Protection requires strength, power, fire. Elder Morris' voice cut through the argument like a blade. Enough, he looked around the table. The council will deliberate. Dilla of House Thalon, your service is noted. For now, you and your human companion will be given quarters. Damien glanced at Dilla as the guards approached. That went well. Better than expected, she said quietly. At least no one tried to shoot you. Yet, as they left the chamber, Damien noticed Morith watching them, the faintest smile on his lips, unreadable, almost knowing. Their assigned quarters were large, almost luxurious by human standards. Translucent walls revealed the swirling nebula beyond bathing everything in soft purple and gold light. Damien stood by the viewport, hands in his pockets. So what's your read on the council? Dilla sighed, removing her gloves. Divided. Kalen leads the militant faction, those who think the heart should be used as a weapon. Thalia and Morith believe in containment. The rest, they follow whichever wind promises survival. And you, I believe in preservation. But sometimes preservation requires rebellion. He turned to her, eyebrow raised. You sound like a human. Careful, she said, smiling faintly. That almost sounds like a compliment. He chuckled, then looked back at the stars. You really trust that, Elder Morith? Her expression tightened. He was my mentor once, before the wars. What? Time changes loyalties. As if summoned by their words, the communication panel on the wall flickered to life. Dilla frowned and approached, activating it. Elder Morris' holographic image appeared soft and wavering. Dilla, you must leave Sanctuary at once. Her eyes widened. What? Why, aim? The Valkyrie know you're here. Someone has betrayed us. She stepped closer. Who? But Morith didn't answer. His hologram glitched, distorting. Behind him, faint red light flashed alarms. Then the transmission cut out. Damien grabbed his sidearm. That's our cue, isn't it? Yes, she said grimly, strapping on her weapons. We need to reach the hangar before they lock down the docks. The corridor outside was chaos. Sirens wailed, echoing through the living walls. Aryan civilians rushed past, their faces pale with fear. Security officers barked orders in melodic tones that sounded more like singing than shouting. Who'd sell out their own people? Damien muttered as they ran. Desperation breeds betrayal, Dilla said. If Drex promised safety, yeah, well, he's about to deliver the opposite. They turned a corner and froze. Kalen stood at the far end of the hall, flanked by armed guards. Dilla, he said coldly, you were warned not to bring outsiders. Now look what's happened. Her hand went to her weapon. You did this. I did what was necessary, he snapped. Morris' weakness would have doomed us. Drex offers a chance for survival. By surrendering the heart, Damien barked. Hell of a plan. Kalen's gaze flicked to him. You don't belong here, human. You've infected her judgment. And you've sold your soul. Enough, Dilla's voice cracked like thunder. You think Drex will spare us? You've seen what he does to those who kneel. Kalen hesitated just long enough. Dilla moved first. A flash of blue light, her pistol fired, disarming the nearest guard. Damien followed, firing a burst that sent another sprawling. Kalen drew his weapon, but Dilla was already on him, striking his wrist, disarming him with fluid precision. She pinned him against the wall, her voice low and furious. You betrayed everything we stand for. I tried to save us, he gasped. You'll see he's coming. The floor shook beneath them. Alarms blared louder. Outside the viewport, the nebula's calm glow shattered as a massive shadow emerged. A ship the size of a mountain, its hull black and silver glowing with Valkyrie insignia. Damien's blood ran cold. Tell me that's not. It's the Dominion, Dilla whispered. Drex's flagship. Kalen smiled faintly, almost peaceful. You're too late. Dilla's fist connected with his jaw, dropping him to the floor. She turned to Damien. We have to move. Now. They sprinted toward the hangar. The floor trembled as explosions rippled through the station. In the distance, the deep roar of Valkyrie boarding craft reverberated through the structure. Damien glanced back, once seeing Kalen struggling to his knees, shouting something drowned out by the alarms. Forget him, Dilla said, breathless. He made his choice. And we make ours, Damien said, gripping her hand as they ran. The hangar doors loomed ahead beyond them. The jackdaw waited, engines dormant like a loyal beast, sensing its master's peril. As they raced up the ramp, Dilla turned back one last time. The station around them burned its golden light, replaced by fire and chaos. Sanctuary, she whispered bitterly. We built a hiding place and called it hope. Damien sealed the hatch. Then it's time we stop hiding. Outside, the Dominion's massive cannons charged beams of violet energy, coalescing ready to fire. Inside, Dilla's eyes met Damien's, fierce and bright. For the heart, she said. For freedom, he answered. The jackdaw roared to life and plunged once more into the storm. The jackdaw tore through the nebula like a wounded animal, engines, screaming hull trembling from the shockwave of Sanctuary's destruction. Behind them, the radiant wheel of the Aryan refuge imploded, a silent bloom of light, swallowed by the endless dark. Damien gritted his teeth, fighting the controls. Hold together! Girl, just hold together! Smoke filled the cockpit. Warning lights flashed red across every panel. Dilla, strapped beside him, was pale but steady. Her hands flew over the console with practiced precision, rerouting power, sealing hull fractures, silencing alarms one by one. Her calm amid the chaos unnerved him almost as much as the chaos itself. Main reactor's unstable, he warned. If it blows, we're dust. Then don't let it blow, she said simply, her amber eyes never leaving the readouts. Great advice, he muttered, redirecting power to life support. Remind me to add you to my emergency manual. Despite the tension, she smiled, that small, maddeningly confident curve of lips that made him forget how close death was. The ship bucked violently as another explosion rippled through the nebula. Fragments of Sanctuary molten debris, shattered metal, and drifting bodies scattered through space like the ghosts of a civilization undone. For a long, brutal minute, it was nothing but sound and vibration, then suddenly silence. Damien exhaled. We're clear. Dilla didn't answer. He turned. She was slumped forward, blood trickling down from a shallow cut across her temple, a shard of metal lodged in her shoulder armor. Dilla? He unstrapped, catching her before she collapsed. The smell of her blood hit him, metallic, faintly sweet, tinged with something that wasn't human. He carried her to the med bay, a small compartment barely big enough for two, and laid her on the padded bench. Stay with me, he muttered, stripping off her armor with quick, efficient movements. Beneath it, her skin gleamed faintly under the ship's emergency lights, silver blue, luminous, even in pain. Her eyelids fluttered. You care too much for a thief. Occupational hazard, he said, digging through the medical kit. People I work with tend to try dying on me. She winced as he pulled the shard free. The sound that escaped her wasn't quite human, half gasp, half hiss, strangely intimate. Easy, he said softly. Almost done. Her breath came shallow, rhythmic. When he pressed the dermal sealer to the wound, she caught his wrist. Her grip was weak, but her gaze was sharp. You could leave, she murmured. Take the heart, sell it. You'd be rich enough to disappear forever. Yeah, I could, Damien said, holding her eyes. But I'm not going to. Why? Because I don't run from people who saved my life. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence like a pulse between them. Then she whispered, You don't understand what I am, Damien. What I've done. Try me. Her voice was quiet, distant, as if confessing to ghosts. When the Valkyrie invaded Aryan Prime, I wasn't just a protector. I was an enforcer. I hunted deserters, even children who tried to flee. I believed obedience would save us. It didn't. It only made me part of the machine that destroyed everything I loved. Damien leaned back, studying her face. The pain there wasn't physical, it was the kind that lived behind the eyes. Redemption's a funny thing, he said finally. You only get it if you think you don't deserve it. She gave a weak laugh. And what about you, human? What sins do you carry? He hesitated. Too many. Too few that matter. The tension hung there, fragile, magnetic. Then she reached up, fingertips brushing his jaw. The heart showed me pieces of you. The wars, the fire, the loss. He didn't flinch. Then you know enough to stay away. I think she whispered, that's why I can't. Her touch lingered, cool, electric, alive. He felt the pulse of the heart, somewhere deep in the ship, faint but resonant, echoing their shared rhythm. When her fingers traced the line of his throat, he caught her wrist gently. You sure this isn't just post-trauma talking? Her lips curved faintly. If it is, then let me be delirious a little longer. The restraint snapped, the kind forged through battle proximity in 1,000 unspoken words. He leaned down and their lips met, slow at first, testing, then urgent. Her mouth was soft and strange, tasting faintly of starlight and metal. Her hand slid into his hair, pulling him closer, and for a moment there was no war. No heart, no galaxy, only the friction of breath and skin. Her body trembled beneath his, not in weakness, but in something deeper, the shock of connection. When they finally broke apart, her eyes glowed brighter, the gold deepening to molten amber. "This isn't wise," she murmured. "Never stopped me before." She laughed softly, the sound of it like music breaking through static. "Then show me, human, how your kind survives the impossible." The rest of the world fell away. They came together with the urgency of survivors, not lovers seeking pleasure, but two warriors trying to erase pain to find meaning in touch. His hands learned her alien contours, tracing the faintly glowing lines that pulsed beneath her skin. Her breath hitched when his lips found the spot where human warmth met alien light. The heart's pulse deepened, synchronizing with their rhythm, a silent witness to their defiance, their merging. When it was over, they lay tangled in the dim cabin, the universe still burning outside their hearts, human and Aryan beating in sync. Dilla rested her head against his chest. "I thought humans were fragile," she said softly. "Emotionally, absolutely. Physically, we improvise." She smiled against his skin. Improvisation. Maybe that's what we've been missing. They lay in silence for a long time. Only the sound of the ship's hum, the faint whisper of recycled air, and the occasional shudder of distant debris broke the stillness. Finally, Damien spoke. "Sanctuary's gone. Half your people, maybe more." Her voice was quiet but steady. "Morith knew the risk. He sent us away because he saw this coming. The heart is all that matters now." He turned to face her. "You're sure he wasn't part of the betrayal?" She shook her head slowly. "No, but someone else was. Maybe Kalen wasn't acting alone. Then we find out who's pulling the strings." Her eyes met his. "And if it's Drex, then we end him." The simplicity of his tone made her shiver, not from fear, but from the certainty in his voice. Humans, she realized, had a terrifying gift, the ability to turn survival into conviction. "You really think two people can stand against an empire?" she asked. Damien smiled faintly. "No, but one legend can start with two people." The words lingered between them, suspended in the hum of the ship, absurd, impossible, yet utterly believable in that moment. Outside, the nebula's glow dimmed as they cleared the last debris field. Ahead, the black of open space waited, endless, dangerous, and alive with possibility. Dilla rose, pulling on a dark tunic from the locker. "We need to reach Nura before Drex does. If he finds the vault first." "He won't," Damien said, standing beside her, "because he'll be too busy chasing ghosts." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" He tapped the nav console, setting new coordinates. "Time to show the Valkyrie what humans do best." She smiled. "Lie, adapt." The Jackdaw's engines roared to life, streaking toward the distant stars. In the medbay, the heart fragment pulsed, once slow, deep, resonant, almost as if it understood that two hearts had just bound themselves to a fate greater than either could have imagined. The stars blurred into lines as the Jackdaw broke hyperspace, emerging near the silent rim of the Nura system. Two suns burned on the horizon, twin orbs of gold and blue, casting fractured light across the planet's surface. For a fleeting moment, it was beautiful, serene. Then the alarm started screaming. Damien's fingers flew over the console. Incoming Valkyrie signatures, 608 ships. Fast interceptors. They must have followed our ion trail. Dilla's voice was cold steel. "Drex won't stop. Not until he gets the heart. Then we make sure he doesn't." He banked the ship hard, cutting close to an asteroid belt that shimmered with electromagnetic storms. Lightning arced through space, blue-white bolts that danced across the rocks like wild gods. "Flying through that field is suicide," Dilla warned. "Only if you're bad at it." The Jackdaw dove into the storm. Asteroids spun past like angry giants. Lightning scraped the hull, throwing blue light across their faces. Dilla braced herself, her hand gripping the armrest as the ship shuddered violently. "Remind me," she shouted over the roar, "why humans call this fun?" "Because it's better than dying bored," Damien yelled back. A Valkyrie interceptor followed them in its plasma cannons, lighting up the storm. Damien spun the ship into a corkscrew debris, flashing past the canopy. A fragment of rock the size of a house clipped their left wing. The hull screamed in protest. "Shields at 40%, Dilla reported. "We can't take another hit like that." Working on it. He jerked the throttle. The ship lurched upward through the electric chaos. A bolt of energy struck one of the pursuing ships, vaporizing it in a burst of white flame. Guess lightning likes them better, Damien said through gritted teeth. Two more ships closed in from behind. Dilla's fingers danced over the weapons console, targeting systems humming, locking missiles. Do it. She pressed the trigger. Two streaks of blue light cut through the storm, finding their targets with deadly precision. Both Valkyrie interceptors exploded, the shockwaves rippling through the field. For a moment's silence, only the storm remained and the faint hum of the heart fragment in the medbay below, responding to the chaos like it was alive. Dilla exhaled. That's 4 down. And 4 to go, Damien said grimly. We'll never outrun them. Then we don't. Her eyes gleamed with a dangerous idea. We draw them in. He raised an eyebrow. You're starting to sound like me. Don't flatter yourself. She entered coordinates into the nav system. There's a dense gas pocket ahead. It'll blind their scanners. If we vent plasma from the rear thrusters, they'll think we exploded. Smart. She smirked faintly. Adaptation wasn't that your human specialty. The ship dove again. The clouds thickened around them, blinding sensors and sight alike. The Jackdaw's hull glowed faintly from heat as they executed the maneuver. Moments later, explosions lit the distance. The Valkyrie ships had fired into the false signal. They bought it, Damien whispered. Dilla leaned back, her chest rising and falling with controlled relief. For now. He turned to look at her, the pale light of the nebula illuminating her face, half serenity, half defiance. Even after battle, she looked composed. Regal. Alien. You ever wonder what you'd be doing if none of this happened? He asked quietly. Her lips curved faintly. I used to dream of studying the old worlds, learning from the ruins, not fighting over them. He smiled. Guess we have that in common. She tilted her head, studying him. And you, Damien Ride, if you weren't stealing from gods, what would you be doing? He hesitated. Running a small museum on Mars, showing kids the stories we forgot to tell. Her eyes softened. You carry nostalgia like a weapon. It's the only one they haven't outlawed. Before she could reply, the proximity alarm blared again. Damien spun to the console. Impossible, they found us. The main display filled with a shadow, vast, angular, alive with red light. The Dominion. Drex's flagship. Even at a distance, it filled the viewport like a nightmare, a leviathan of metal and hate. Dilla's voice went hollow. He's here. The comm channel crackled. Then came the voice, deep, calm, and venomous. Dilla of House Thalon. You run well for someone who once swore loyalty to me. Her knuckles whitened on the console. Drex, and the human, the thief. You've made interesting choices in your company, my dear. Damien smirked. Nice to be noticed. Surrender the heart, and I may grant you a painless death. Resist, and I will make legends out of your suffering. Dilla leaned forward, her tone icy. You talk too much. She cut the channel. Now he's pissed, Damien said. He was born pissed. Great. We'll get along fine. Outside, the Dominion began to deploy smaller craft, a dozen interceptors forming a deadly sphere around them. The heart fragment pulsed again as if agitated by Drex's proximity. Dilla touched the glowing compartment housing it. It knows him. It remembers. Can it help us, Damien asked. She hesitated, not directly, but it reacts to emotion, to connection. He gave her a wry look. You're saying if we care harder, we might live. She met his gaze. If we believe harder. The ship shuddered under the impact of a plasma barrage. Warnings screamed across the board. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and out of luck, Damien said, flipping safety locks on the weapon systems. So let's get creative. He rerouted auxiliary power to the weapons array, overcharging the cannons. The Jackdaw's hull groaned. Damien Dilla warned. That will overload the reactor. Then we'll give Drex something worth remembering. The first salvo ripped through the void, twin beams of white fire that cut two interceptors clean in half. The others retaliated immediately. Explosions flared across the Jackdaw's flank. The ship buckled, alarms shrieking. Shields collapsing, Dilla cried. Hold there. She slammed her hands onto the console, pushing power from life support into the deflectors. The ship's glow brightened a last defiant flare, and then silence again. The Valkyrie ships had stopped firing. What the hell, Damien whispered. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the cockpit. Drex himself, tall and cruelly beautiful. His armor black as void glass, his eyes pale as dying stars. Enough games. Dilla's voice shook despite her control. How did you find us? You think I would let the bond between us fade so easily? You forget, beloved, I marked you. She froze. No. He smiled. You carry the mark still, in your blood, in your bones. Damien felt his stomach drop. He's tracking you. No, she whispered, horrified. Not just me, us. When the heart linked our minds in the temple, it carried his mark into you. Damien's breath caught. You mean, you both belong to me now, Drex said softly. The heart is already mine. The hologram vanished. For a long second, the only sound was the hum of the engines and the faint beating of the heart fragment, faster now, like panic. Dilla turned to Damien, eyes wide. We're connected through him. If we don't sever that link, he'll find us anywhere. They stared at each other, understanding, dawning sharp as a blade. She swallowed hard. There's one way to break the bond, but it's dangerous. Define dangerous. She met his gaze. It could kill us both. He grinned faintly. So Tuesday. She almost smiled. You really don't fear death. Fear's useless when you've already lived too long. Her expression softened, something breaking behind her eyes. Then we do this together. Always. They clasped hands. The heart pulsed brighter, responding to their unity, their defiance. Outside, the Dominion's cannons charged again, red lights spilling across the void. Inside, Dilla began the ritual, ancient words spilling from her lips like fire and music. The heart lifted from its cradle, floating between them, its glow turning from blue to pure white. Energy filled the ship, blinding alive. The sound was no longer mechanical, it was human and alien and divine all at once. Dilla Damien shouted over the roar. What's happening? Her eyes glowed white. We're rewriting the bond, turning it inward. The heart pulsed again, faster, harder, until the light consumed everything. For one terrible moment, Damien felt every heartbeat in the galaxy, billions of souls screaming, praying, fighting. Then silence. The light collapsed inward and the Dominion's sensors blinked out. When the glare faded, the jackdaw was gone. So was Drex's mark. There was no up or down, no light or darkness, only silence. Damien's first thought was that he was dead. Then came breath, slow, ragged, defiant. He opened his eyes. The cockpit around him was shattered, flickering with dying lights. The jackdaw floated dead in space, adrift in a sea of color. The Cygnus Nebula stretched around them like a living tapestry. Dilla lay beside him, motionless. Her hair spread across the deck like liquid silver. Dilla! He crawled toward her, heart hammering, her pulse faint, too faint. He pressed his forehead against hers. Come on, we didn't die just to die again. The heart fragment hovered between them, still glowing though dimly, its light pulsing in sync with her heartbeat, as if trying to keep her alive. Then he heard it, her voice weak but steady. Still giving orders. Human. He laughed, half relieved, half shaking. I thought I lost you. You almost did. Her eyes opened, dull amber but alive. Did it work? He looked out the viewport. The Dominion was gone. No signal, no shadow. Yeah. Drex's tracking is dead. You broke the link. We broke it, she corrected softly. For a while they said nothing, just breathed, listening to the faint hum of the heart stabilizing itself. Then Damien's brow furrowed. If Drex can't track us, he'll go for Nura directly. The other fragments. Dilla sat up, wincing from the strain. Then that's where we go. He nodded grimly. Then that's where we end this. Nura, the sanctuary world. 2 days later, the jackdaw descended through Nura's golden atmosphere. The world was breathtaking, vast fields of luminous grass, cities built into living mountains, rivers that glowed faintly in the night. But beauty didn't mean peace. Valkyrie warships hovered in orbit like carrion birds. Flames dotted the horizon where orbital strikes had already fallen. They've begun their invasion, Dilla said, her tone hollow. Damien gritted his teeth. Then we end it before they finish. They landed near the Valley of Whispers, where the vault containing the heart fragments lay hidden. As they disembarked, the ground shook from distant bombardment. Aryan defenders, elegant but outnumbered, moved in organized retreat. The air smelled of ozone and loss. Elder Thalia met them at the entrance, armor scorched, voice tight with exhaustion. Dilla, we feared you dead. Almost, Dilla said. We have the fourth fragment. Thalia's gaze softened, then hardened again. Then we may yet survive. Drex is approaching. His fleet breached the upper atmosphere an hour ago. Where's Morth? Dilla asked. Thalia's silence was answer enough. He fell holding the southern gate, she whispered. His last words were to hold the vault no matter the cost. Dilla bowed her head briefly, grief flickering across her face. Then she straightened, fire in her eyes. Then we make his sacrifice mean something. She turned to Damien. Let's finish this. Inside the vault, the remaining 3 fragments floated in harmonic suspension, casting soft light across the chamber's circular walls. As Dilla approached, her fragment rose from its container, humming eagerly, a living heartbeat answering its kin. When she placed it among the others, the chamber erupted in light. The fragments aligned, forming half of the heart, 4 of 7 pieces glowing with a power that shook the air itself. Damien shielded his eyes. It's waking up. Dilla's voice trembled with awe. It senses the others. It's calling them home. And Drex has got the rest, Damien said grimly, which means he's coming here to complete it. Before she could say more, the ground quaked, a distant thunder growing louder. Outside, the sky split apart. The Dominion descended through the clouds, vast as a mountain trailing fire. Valkyrie dropships swarmed ahead like a plague of steel locusts. The final battle had begun. Dilla and Damien ran from the vault, joining the defenders at the ridgeline. Aryan energy cannons fired into the sky, cutting down incoming ships, but there were too many. Damien grabbed a pulse rifle from a fallen soldier, checking its unfamiliar controls. Guess I'm an honorary Aryan now. Dilla smirked despite the chaos. Try not to shoot yourself. Can't make promises. Explosions shook the ground. The first Valkyrie troops landed, tall, armored beings with segmented exosuits and glowing weapons. The battle erupted in light and noise, a storm of plasma and fire. Damien fired from cover, dropping 2 enemies with well-placed shots. Dilla fought beside him, her movements a blur, elegant and lethal. Energy blades flickered from her gauntlets, cutting through armor like paper. For a moment, they moved perfectly together, 2 beings from opposite worlds fighting as one. But then the shadow fell. The Dominion itself descended, its lower decks opening like jaws. And from that darkness, Drex emerged. He landed amid the chaos, his armor glowing crimson, his presence warping the air. The ground seemed to recoil beneath his feet. Dilla, his voice echoed through the battlefield. Even now you resist destiny. Destiny, she spat, is just the word tyrants use to excuse control. He smiled. And freedom is the lie rebels tell themselves to justify chaos. Damien stepped forward. You talk too much. Drex's pale eyes slid toward him. And you are the infection that corrupted her. He raised his hand. The air shimmered and Damien's body convulsed, lifted by invisible force. Damien, Dilla screamed. She charged forward, but Drex flung her aside with a flick of his wrist. You both could have ruled beside me, he said softly. But instead you've chosen pain. He extended his other hand. The heart fragments in the vault behind them pulsed violently as if struggling against him. Come, he whispered to them. Return to me. The ground split. The fragments began to rise, drawn toward him. Dilla staggered to her knees, blood on her lips. You'll destroy everything. I'll perfect everything, Drex replied. The heart is evolution, and I am its will. Not if I burn you first, Damien growled. He tore his sidearm free, not a normal gun now, but overcharged with heart energy leaking from the vault. He fired. The blast hit Drex square in the chest, throwing him back, but instead of pain, he laughed. Human defiance. How quaint. Then he caught Damien by the throat. Let me show you what true power feels like. The world dimmed around them, the heart's light flickering, responding to their clash. Dilla, Damien gasped. The heart, use it. She crawled toward the vault, reaching for the glowing fragments. The energy burned her palms, searing flesh and light. But she didn't stop. She looked back at Damien, eyes wild, voice raw. You trust me. Always, he shouted, barely breathing. She thrust her hands into the heart. Light exploded outward. Time shattered. Dilla screamed, not in pain but in power. The heart responded to her, not Drex. Its energy coursed through her veins, turning her eyes white hot. Her voice echoed across the battlefield, layered with something divine. The heart chooses, will not blood. She rose from the ground, hovering amid the storm. The air around her burned gold. Drex staggered back, his armor cracking under the radiance. You can't control it. I'm not trying to control it, she said, her voice like thunder. I'm letting it choose. The heart's light reached for Damien, wrapping him in warmth, human defiance merging with alien grace. Their connection reignited deeper than before. Together, they became the conduit. Energy surged through them, connecting everything in the heart. The Aryan defenders, even the dying Valkyrie soldiers who dropped their weapons, overcome by visions they couldn't understand. Drex roared, his form disintegrating under the light. You think love can stand against evolution? Dilla's answer was calm, absolute. Love is evolution. The light swallowed him whole. Then it was over. The Dominion cracked apart in the sky, collapsing in on itself before vanishing into the void. The remaining Valkyrie fled. Silence spread across the battlefield, not of death, but of awe. Dilla fell to her knees, trembling. The heart dimmed now, stable its fragments, fused no longer 7 but 1. Damien caught her before she fell completely. You did it. She smiled weakly. We did. He pressed his forehead to hers. So what now? Now, she whispered, we rebuild. The light of dawn broke across Nura's horizon. Aryan survivors began to gather, soldiers, civilians, elders, staring at the fused heart as it floated above the valley, pulsing like a new sun. Thalia approached, awe in her eyes. The war is over. For now, Dilla said softly. But peace. Peace will need guardians. She turned to Damien, and ambassadors. He blinked. You mean me? You're good at stealing things, she said with a tired smile. Steal us a future. He laughed, quiet, broken, genuine. You really trust me with diplomacy. I trust you with everything. She kissed him, not out of passion this time, but out of recognition of what they had become. When they pulled apart, the heart pulsed once brighter than ever, then settled into calm rhythm as if blessing them. The war had ended not with conquest, but with unity, a human thief and an alien warrior rewriting destiny itself. As the sons of Nura rose higher, painting the sky gold, Damien whispered, so what do we call this new era? Dilla smiled, her hand finding his. Call it what you humans always do when you survive the impossible. He grinned, a beginning.